Good day, everyone. Tim from Ski Rex Media here once again. Thank you for joining me again this week on the old Ski Rex Media podcast. And this week, we start with a story. I'm going to tell you a story that happened just this past Thursday, almost a week ago. I took a ride out to Bolton Valley, my second time out there, skied it, had a great time. It was a great day, sun for miles in every direction, blue skies for miles in every direction, could see clean out to Lake Champlain, just saw it shimmering out there in the distance to the west of where I was at Bolton Valley. But during that day, the mountain asked to take a strap off if you're wearing a backpack around one arm. As I was coming to the top of the chairlift, I did not check to see if it was loose. So I just flipped my bar up, didn't even think about it, went to stand up to go down the ramp, and could not go. And I yanked and my bag stuck. So I yanked through it, broke part of the plastic. One of the I don't even know what you'd call them, but it holds everything together. Broke that. The bag sat on the chairlift, and I fell off of it. Went sliding down all duck-footed and crazy on my backside down the ramp. Knocked my skis off, rolled out of the way. Couldn't get out of it quick enough. They did have to stop the chair, and I stood there for a minute just embarrassed, which I even told the two people who were in the lift shack I was embarrassed. So that was a pretty simple fall off. Not uncommon. Have seen it many times. Have never done it myself. Have never fallen on a chairlift dismount that I can remember. Have fallen from a Poma lift, but never a chairlift. And that's one thing. That happens a lot. It's when people fall off the chair when it's in motion out of the start or up at the finish, where you load or where you unload. Again, I don't know how common that is. Now, you could say, well, why don't you just look up the statistics? Me looking up statistics, to me, that says there's going to be some kind of show prep. And when do I ever do show prep? It is obvious. But then the right answer to that would be, well, what about professionalism? And then you got me there. Maybe I'm not the most professional, I can't say broadcasting because this isn't really broadcasting, but I'm not the most professional podcaster in the world. I do try to be entertaining, though, and I try to bring some ideas to the table. Now, I don't know, as I said, how often people actually fall from chairlifts, as in when they're in motion, like I said, out of the loading area, out of the unloading area. In between, when a person falls, they don't just fall down on the ground. They could fall. They could fall 2-3 feet. I've seen some big snow years where the chair is practically right on the ground, like some big snow times, and you see the ropes around those areas. Pat's Peak has an area like that in Cascade Basin, the back area. One of the lifts at Mount Snow at one time, as I remember, had to do that. I want to say it was the triple up to the summit. There was a part where it was low enough. If there was a big enough snow season, they had to rope off a section because if someone went under there, they could be kicked right square in the back of the head, or in the front of the head, actually, because they'd be coming down. And it's not a good thing. But chairlifts also go very, very high. I think, how does it happen? Let's just get down to it. How does it happen? I know how someone falls in the loading area. You're just not ready for it. You don't know how to ride the lift. You sit down wrong. The chair comes around quicker than you realize. You're not used to conveyor loading. Anything like this. Unload. You just completely blow it. You bounce off of someone. You get hooked to the chair. All that stuff can happen. But it's the people who fall after that. I don't know, because all you're doing is sitting. And even if you're shimmying, like, I've never felt like I was going to fall off a chairlift. Like, I never, even with the bar up. And that's kind of what we're getting to. And I'm going to get to that as well. Because some of these folks have fallen with the bar down. Like, the safety bar is in place. They're doing, I guess, what they're supposed to be doing. And somehow they just right underneath the bar and are hanging on for dear life. Now, why do I bring it up? I bring it up because I think it was in Saskatchewan, what is it, Table Mountain? I've never heard of the place. But then Saskatchewan is a place I've never been, and it's kind of far from here. So, and I can't memorize the name of every single mountain on the planet. There are some people who could, I'm sure. I'm not one of them. Somebody, a kid even, went under the bar and was hanging on, had to hang on until they could get him off, which I think that kid was able to just finish the ride and drop off at the top. Then I want to say one of the mountains in Maine just had a kid. I think maybe two mountains in Maine just had a kid almost go off the lift, hanging on, and then had to be caught underneath. Upstate New York, I think, had one just recently. I don't know. Again, I could have looked up the statistics, but I don't know how often this actually happens. But why it happens at all now is beyond me. And then why has there been an increase, or what seems to be an increase? Maybe it's not an increase. Maybe I've just never noticed before. And even in the 21st century, though the information age is not young anymore and is not new, and we know that there's information coming that we never heard before just because we have access to it. Maybe this stuff did happen a lot more often. You just didn't hear about it because you didn't have access to it because it was a local news story, not a national news story. But now every story is a worldwide news story. Every story, you just have to look for it or look at things similar to it. So if I'm looking up skiing, ski resorts, snowboarding, snowboard resorts, ski boards, you name it, whatever, as long as it has something to do with snow sports, these other stories are going to come up as well. But I just noticed over this season, it seems like there has been an increase. Now you could say the same thing about avalanche deaths. I'm not talking about that. You could say, well, isn't that more important? In a way it is, but that seems to me something that that did increase this year. I don't think there's any question. I think the statistics might even speak for that. I read them, don't have them, but they went up, but we know how to stay out of that situation. We know that, more people went outside, so more accidents happen because more people aren't learning what they should be learning when they should be learning it, or are getting a little too big for their britches. And that's not all of them. Accidents happen, obviously, but if there is an increase, you could probably go through and find that these numbers jive with the noobs, and that happens. But with falling off a lift, it seems like, you get on, you sit back, you pull your bar down, and then that should be it. And who's going under the bar? If you don't have the bar up, then I can see it. I can see it happening. I ride with the bar down, mostly to get the footrest. That's the kind of ski snob I am. That's where I do my ski snob stuff, is on the footrest on the chairlift that comes down with the bar. I do like that. But I use a bar anyway, always have, ever since the very first time I rode a chairlift back when I was like 11 years old. Before I even knew how to ski, I rode one in the summer for an alpine slide, down in the old, now defunct Mount Tom in Massachusetts. That's where I learned how to ride chairlift on foot in the summer and put the bar down. In some places, I think it is required. It is state law to put the bar down. That doesn't mean everybody does it. And, I don't know if they really have to. Not to follow the rules, regulations, and laws, sure. But, you can generally be safe as long as you are, sitting back in the chair, not leaning, not fooling around, not doing whatever. If you're just sitting there BSing with your friends, or in the case of COVID, maybe you're BSing to yourself, that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with talking out loud to yourself, and you can get away with it in the 21st century because people just think you're on a Bluetooth call. Isn't that wonderful? Same thing when in the car. You never have to be embarrassed about singing out loud in the car, unless you're really super animated. I mean, if you don't get embarrassed anyway, that doesn't matter. But everybody thinks you're on a Bluetooth call. But, as long as you're not messing around, you should be able if the wind's whipping enough to push you back, that may be a problem as well. I don't know. In the end, why has it increased, or why are we seeing it more? And again, it could just be it's in the news more, or are people just getting cocky about these things? Maybe people are fooling around. Maybe I honestly think when you see an increase in accidents where safety precautions are taken or can be taken, a lot, obviously, if they're all being ignored, then things are going to still happen. Fine. But I would figure most people use the bar. Most people are just sitting there. So why the increase? And some of them are kids. Some of them are kids. You could say, well, they're small. They could slip under the bar. But how are you slipping under the bar? Like, what kind of crazy yoga move is happening? And again, I'm not trying to make these people sound stupid. Like, accidents happen. I'm saying I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand why it's increased. I don't know why kids are slipping out from underneath bars. I don't know why this is happening, because everything is in place to make, like, the footrest isn't just there to make sure that you are, you don't have to hang your feet all the way down. I like that is part of the function. If you put your feet up, you can't, if your feet are held in place, you have to go forward over, pardon that bump in the microphone. You have to go forward and over yourself to get out. But to do that, you have to get over the bar, and the bar has been between you and your leg. You can't go out that way. You have to go under it. So the footrest can hold you in place as well, can hold a person in place as well. I don't understand. And I wasn't there. I wasn't. And it's hard to get the full story for a lot of reasons now. Media sensationalism, parental lack of responsibility. Parents don't want to look like it was their fault. They don't want it to look like it was their kid's fault. We live in a world where the ski mountain gets blamed for a lot. I've talked about it in the past many times. The lawsuits that come up against ski hills and that these people win, even if they basically say it's their fault, even if they say no basically about it, even if they say it's their fault, they still get awarded a lot of money. And on the ticket, it says, you're taking your life into your own hands, man. Don't hold us liable. And yet they are still able to hold them liable. While there are some times where that might be appropriate, a lot of the times it isn't. So I wonder what actually happened. Why are these people falling off? Were they actually fooling around? Was the chair covered in ice? Ice is slippery, so I guess that could happen. Why are these things happening? And you see, and you got to wonder, because you say, well, who knows? Maybe they weren't fooling around, maybe this, that, and other. But then you see videos of people who are jumping out of the chairs. I've known people who have done it. Considered doing it myself once back in my rebel youth. Jumping out of the chair. You've seen people enter the chair from a jump. I've seen that too. And usually those are set up. Like that's not an accident. That's not some kind of, oh, look at this badass just doing it. He's not just doing it. They set that up. That was probably the third or fourth take. That was set up. Believe me. Which is fine too. It's a good bit. But these people right now that are falling out, let's just get down to it, because obviously I don't know why it increased, and I can't know because I wasn't there and I haven't talked to witnesses, and now you only get so much from the news report. You have to take news reports with a grain of salt these days. That's just the truth. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to strive, because this season, as I say, this season ends on September 30th, begins on October 1st. Why? Because I think that's an awesome bit, and I don't know. I haven't really fleshed it out, but that's what Ski Rex Media says. New ski season starts on October 1st because the season technically doesn't have to end for anyone who doesn't want it to or who has the means to not let it. Indoor skiing, plastic slopes, easier travel in the 21st century. I know COVID-19, once that's all done, back to easier travel, all that stuff. The season doesn't have to end. But as the winter and spring seasons, skiing and snowboarding seasons, wind down, here's what we can do. Number one, we can try and be careful now. People are getting excited because some people don't get to go all year. They have to wait for their vacations. They just don't have the time. And with travel restrictions, believe me, spring's going to be ridiculous because some of the travel restrictions are coming down. And if people have got the vaccine, they can go first. And, so it could get wild here over the next month and a half here in the East, and then pushing into the early summer as it does into the Rockies in the West. And then the summer hills, in Montana and the Pacific Northwest, that are open during the summer. It's going to get a little wild as these travel restrictions, because people weren't able to do it, plus the people who really can't do it. We talk about the people who are like, that's so awesome that they hit 100 days, and that is great for them, but not everybody can do that. Literally, people sometimes people literally have to wait for that 1 week that they have, or 2 weeks they have of their vacation, that they have their paid vacation time. They have to do it that way, as to not lose much money. So people are trying to get that now that they can travel again. And so it might get a little crazy. So as you're going to go out and get crazy, do this. I'm not telling you to use the bar. I can't tell you to do that. That would be stupid and arrogant and just indulgent in a way too. Believe it or not, think about that. For me, who the hell am I to tell you to use the bar? I use it. I prefer it for not just the safety reasons, but for the comfort reasons. But so if you don't, take precautions beyond that. And let's be honest, people who are experienced can do without safety equipment in some cases. Let's look at it from and the safety will be different. Meaning if you have a person who's been riding a motorcycle, say for like 40 years, they've been riding for 40 years and they don't wear a helmet, they might be taking their own safety into their own hands. True, but they are going to be a safer, more experienced rider than someone who just got their motorcycle license yesterday. That person not wearing a helmet is taking more of a risk than the experienced person. Granted, they're both taking a risk by not wearing a helmet, as we know, but who's taking a bigger risk? So obviously, if you have the bar up, of course you're taking a bigger risk of falling off the chair, but an experienced person knows to sit properly and not fool around and knock your friend off the chair or fall off the chair or whatever it may be, So be as safe as you can. I always say that, and I think we can stick with that. Even I went to the helmet, using the helmet, a story here just a second ago with the motorcycles. I've been wearing a ski helmet this year, and I have knocked my head off more getting in and out of the car than anything. And you could say, why are you wearing your helmet in the car? I was like, I don't mean to. I'm like, oh, I left something in the car. I reach in to get it, not thinking about it, and knock myself in the head. I've also knocked myself in the helmet with my skis on my shoulder because there's that much more room there, so they don't, and just knock myself upside the head. Has it prevented injury from those things? Sure, but would I have knocked myself off? Would I have hit myself in the head if I hadn't been wearing it? Similarly, the backpack story I told at the beginning, it was the fact that the lifties asked me to take one off. Could say that, if I had to taken that strap off, I wouldn't have gotten stuck. But if I would have been thinking, I would have checked to make sure it wasn't stuck, and it wouldn't have been a problem anyway. So it was nobody's fault. If I hadn't been wearing a backpack that day at all, it wouldn't have happened at all either way. So there you go. So, fault really isn't the issue here. The issue is making sure you are safe. So if you are wearing a backpack, obviously if you have the bar down, even if it's a thick backpack, if you have the bar up against you, then you're probably not going to go tumbling forward. I think one of the reasons some mountains like you to have a backpack either strap off or turned around to the front is that you could sit all the way back in the chair, which is the safest place to be. So if you're wearing a backpack, make sure you are able to sit back, make sure the bar can come down. If you're not using the bar, make sure it's not so, such a fat backpack that you're up on the edge of the seat. Take all the safety precautions you can. Take the ones you are comfortable with using. Again, I'm not going to tell you what to do and what not to do. That's not my place. I just know why these precautions are there, and I follow them because I don't know. That's just the kind of person I am. Maybe I'm just a goody two shoes. Who knows? But I follow the precautions pretty well, and I don't, I haven't fallen off. Like I said, that unload the other day was the only time I've ever fallen on a chairlift. Only time. And I've never even been close to slipping out from under a bar or sliding off a chair when riding without the bar. Because I've had times where people, don't put down the bar, and I should probably just be more forceful and put it down if I want it down. But I think the last time I ended up riding with a bar up is my friends had it up at Big Snow last October. So there you go. And that's not a low chairlift either. You'd get hurt if you fell off of that one, and you might hurt somebody else in the process. So be as safe as you can. That's the best I got, because I can't figure out why these have increased. But if they are increasing, then we can be mindful of it. And if we can be mindful of it, then we can prevent it. And prevent it the best you can. And don't go, trying to get and be a dick to people. Let the people who work there do their job. If they're telling people to put their bar down, let them handle it. In fact, at Suicide 6, Lifty called up to the upper patrol shack at the top because a person didn't put their bar down right in the chair in front of me, and he yelled up to him, "Hey, put your bar down!" And they didn't put their bar down, and patrol came. I saw him, gave him a talking to when they got up to the top. Put your bar down. So you could be risking tickets and passes too. Straight up. So be as safe as you can. Again, I like I said, I'm not telling you to do it, but they might tell you to do it. So it's up to you. But let's try and keep this from becoming any more of a trend than it is, because I couldn't believe I've seen it like back to back to back. Not back to back like it happens on Monday, then on Tuesday, then on Wednesday, then on Thursday, but like this week, last week, 2 weeks ago, a couple times this year. And again, maybe it's not an increase and it just feels like one, but let's not let it be an increase. Let's be safe for the rest of the season, rest of the winter and spring season. And then for you, those of you who go into the summer, depending on where you go, again, I don't know what every place that some of the bigger summer places that go into the summer and through the summer, they probably have chairlifts, but I'm sure there's also places with surface lifts. Maybe the plastic hills are using surface lifts. I don't know. Big Snow, our indoor facility here in the United States has a quad chair, but also has 2-3 surface lifts. So surface lifts, you really only have to worry about falling as far as you fall, and bumping your backside. Falling off a chair, that, however, is not pretty, and you don't want to do that. So let's cut that out. As adults, let's not do it. As kids, let's teach our kids how not to do it. If your kids are getting uppity and bouncing the chair, make them stop. Parent them and make them stop. Your choice of parenting, no issue of mine. Who am I to tell you how to parent? So however you get them to stop is how you get them to stop. Right. I don't know. I just want everybody to be safe, and I don't want people, because here's the thing. If this is an increase, then someone's going to say something about it when someone really gets hurt. Like all these few stories that have happened lately that I heard about all had happy endings. It's going to be the first one that's an unhappy ending that's going to send all the lift companies, all the lift manufacturers running back to the drawing board, and lifts scrambling to retrofit their old lifts, and lifts that don't even have bars. Where was it? In Seven Springs, Pennsylvania, maybe? Is that a place that doesn't? The Pennsylvania contingent will tell me if that has or doesn't has. I think that's a place that doesn't have safety bars. Doesn't have, the bar that drops. They don't have it. At least they didn't when I was there. And I think that's where it was. I don't remember. But I'm pretty sure that was it. And you got to be careful on those. But then they're going to have to scramble to retrofit that to have bars. And then these other, and then the bars will be more, and then they'll put seat belts on it, which I don't know how safe that would be, because could people get them off and the bar up in time to get off the ramp? So I don't know. And they'd have to take it all back to the drawing board, and it's just going to cause a lot of problems where what we have will work, as long as it isn't an increase. And again, I could be wrong about the increase. I won't know that till all the statistics come out. I mean, I could look up the statistics anyway, but until the seasons change, where they could say, all right, so last year at this time through this time, this is how many we had. It was an increase of this many percent or a decrease of this much percent. We won't know that. So we can revisit this topic another time. For now, maybe put the bar down if you don't, or if you don't, you be safe. Obviously, if you don't ever do it and you're still skiing, then you must be doing something right. So who the hell am I? Just be careful. Make sure everybody around you is being careful. And as we get to go with friends and stuff, as the restrictions as the restrictions end, think about it. I'm not practiced with getting off a lift with other people. So if I do go with other people, I'm going to ask to sit on the outside so I can just to the outside, and we'll see what happens there. I don't know. We'll see. For now, I am Tim from Ski Rex Media. Thank you for listening to that rant about chairlift and chairlift safety, such as it is, or asking people to be chairlift safe, because again, I don't know what I'm talking about, so who knows. But thank you for listening or watching. #watching if you did both. If you watched on YouTube, it is also available on IGTV. Subscribe on YouTube, hit the notification bell, whatever's down there, the like buttons, do all that. IGTV, like, share it with your friends, and then all the many audio versions, most of which are listed in the description, and some that aren't, so I have to update that. But there is Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Buzzsprout, Stitcher, and like a dozen others. It's not a dozen, but it's close. Maybe a dozen total. doesn't matter. If you put in Ski Rex Media into a podcast directory, it's likely you'll find Ski Rex Media Podcast if you would prefer an audio-only version. Or if you are listening to the audio version, as I said, there are video versions as well, which is just me talking in a very blank studio with a shadow on the wall. But that's all right. I have a few ideas about that. Right. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. #watching. Follow Ski Rex Media on all the social media outlets. And there's the Patreon thing and the Discord thing and like I said, the video thing and all this other stuff. Check it all out. All in the description, skirexmedia.com. I thank you. And I will see you on the next one. And maybe I'll see you out on the hill before the summer comes. What do you say? See you out there. Thank you, everybody. Later.